The Mermaid's Ring. Donald MacDonald was not the most fortunate of young men, although he became a fisherman like his father and inherited a little stone cottage. The girl he wanted to take home as his bride would have none of it. In the end, she told him to face that she had another suitor and that he had better look elsewhere. But Donald could not get that fair-haired, pretty girl out of his mind. He would avoid her when they met and close his ears when she was spoken of. In the end, he built himself a shack on a lonely spot on the beach, miles from the village, just so as to avoid hearing or seeing anything to remind him of her. There he lived the life of a hermit, alone with his grief. One day, he set sail as usual and began fishing. But this time, fish were not the only things he found when he drew in his nets. There, before his very eyes, was a creature he had always supposed existed only in the tales the old fisherman told. A real, live mermaid, half beautiful maiden, with long fair hair, and half scaly fish. "Set me free," she began to weep and moan, but when Donald didn't want to, she told him, "My father is the Sea King, and he will give you the biggest and most beautiful pearls you could wish for." "What good are pearls to me when I have no one to give them to?" the young man answered sadly. So the mermaid offered him gold and precious stones, but all to no avail. "What, then, do you ask in return for setting me free?" she asked, quite upset. "It seems to me that you are very particular." "I want the love of the girl without whom I cannot live," cried Donald, and it was a wonder he did not burst into tears of grief as he said it. "What girl is that?" the mermaid was anxious to know. "What kind of eyes has she? What kind of hair?" she went on, and the young man told her everything. "Well, I might know how to help you, but you would have to come with me beneath the waters to the King of the Sea. Aren't you afraid?" asked the mermaid, but Donald just gave a wave of his hand. Then he released his prisoner from the net, and before long he was standing before a throne made of shells and pearls, and on it sat the King of the Sea. He was green from head to foot, with a crown of green gold and a green beard. But his eyes looked Donald up and down in quite a kindly fashion when he learned from his daughter what brought the young man there. "To gain the love of one who does not want you is no easy matter," the king muttered through his beard, as soon as he heard what troubled the fisherman. "But I will help you, though most of all you will have to help yourself," he said at last, and he rose from his throne and opened the huge shell he used as a treasure chest. He rummaged in it for a while, and then he took out a ring of green gold, set with tiny emeralds and pearls. "Listen carefully to what I tell you," he said to the young man. "You must wait in your lonely cove for at least another year for the one you desire. Though it may seem a long time, you must believe that you cannot succeed otherwise. After a year, you must set this ring on the finger of your loved one. Then she will certainly not refuse you." "It is a magic ring my mermaid great-grandmother gave to me," the mermaid added. "You must not lose it, and when you are married, I shall come to the bay myself to get it back." With these words, the king and his daughter took their leave of Donald, and soon, with the ring on his little finger, he was on his way back to his hut. Then a year's waiting began for the young man, and it must be said that he found it hard to bear patiently, even though he had enough work to occupy him. In the morning, he sailed out to fish. Then he dried his catch and prepared his nets, but his gaze would often wander to the distance where he felt his loved one to be. One day he stayed at sea a little longer than usual, and when he returned he saw that someone was waiting by his hut. It was a girl, but one quite different from the one he dreamed of. Her hair was auburn and long, unlike those soft golden locks which played about the shoulders, and her eyes dark, quite different from the forget-me-nots ones of his heart's desire. "I have run away from home, for my father brought back a stepmother who started tormenting me. Fisherman, please let me stay here with you for a while at least. I will work hard for you, and will not trouble you at all." "What am I to do with you?" Donald replied, none too pleased. "But mark you, keep out of my way, for I have worries enough of my own." So, although he hardly ever saw the girl, his life began to change. The hut was spick and span, his shirts and trousers were always mended, and a hot meal was always waiting for him when he came home. By and by there would even be flowers in a vase, and all those little things that show a woman's touch. The fisherman didn't even notice at first. He did not know where the girl slept, or where she ate, and it was a long time before he found out that she had a little straw in the shed where he kept his nets, where she would carry a few scraps of food. Donald was deeply ashamed of himself, and he built a small shelter onto the hut for her and whitewashed everywhere. From then on they shared the same table for meals. But that was not all. By and by the fisherman confided his troubles in the dark-haired girl, and she did the same. And before Donald knew it, his year-long wait was at an end. The day before the year was up, before Donald set sail, he saw that the dark-haired girl had made up the bundle with which she had arrived. "Where are you off to?" he asked, surprised. "Where would I go? Home, of course. I am not afraid of my stepmother any more," the girl replied. "And in any case, I should be in your way now that you will be bringing home that bride of yours. I have left you food for today and tomorrow," she added, turning her eyes to the ground. In an instant she was out of the cottage and hurrying along the coastal path, until soon her tiny figure disappeared from view. That day the fisherman had 2 left hands. Instead of looking forward to his wish being fulfilled at last, he grew more and more angry, and only stared at the blank walls. But when morning came, he put on his best clothes before day had even broken, slipped the ring into his pocket, and set off, but not in the direction where his blonde and pretty girl lived, but in the opposite direction altogether, along the path the dark-haired girl had taken, the girl who had looked after him so well for a whole year. The young fisherman now knew where his heart lay, and he was grateful to the Sea King for giving him such a long time to make up his mind. And since the dark-haired girl had liked him from the first, within a week they were married. The wedding was a merrier one than any could remember, and they danced day and night and feasted to their heart's content, and many a feud was settled there, and enemies became friends again. After the wedding, Donald took his bride to his cottage in his boat, and as they were sailing along, they saw from afar the mermaid waiting in the shallows. She was smiling, and when the fisherman went to take the golden ring from his wife's finger to return it as promised, she said, "Let your bride keep the ring, fisherman. It is hers by right, and if there should ever be the least blight on your love, you need only look at it, and you will love each other again as you do today. Remember me at least when you do," the mermaid added, and still smiling, vanished beneath the waves, never to be seen again.